Hi, this is Hey Karish. I'm Karishma, and welcome back. We've been on a bit of a sabbatical here, and happy to tell you that we're feeling really great and feeling like we've got a whole other season and a few more seasons actually under us, under our belt. I mean, okay, I'm gonna do that again. Hi, and welcome back to Hey Karish. My name's Karishma. Thank you so much to all of you who've been with us on this journey of this show. I can't really call it a podcast. I think it's a podcast, it's a YouTube show, it's so much really. And more than anything else, it's a wonderful way for me to be able to connect with you and for us to be able to bring you stories that we really truly believe are important and should be heard. So, this episode today, as we begin the third season of Hey Karish. Well, this one comes to you once again straight from our home and our hearts. It's going to be about something that is extremely, extremely precious to us, which is the birth of our baby. So, my husband Chandran and I, we, as you know from our previous episodes, this is our second marriage for both of us. Chandran has had a divorce in the past. I have lost my previous husband, with whom I share three children. And this time, Chandran and I welcomed our first baby together into the world, and that was on August 31st, 2024. A very, very special day for us, and I think the entire pregnancy was really special. I think, you know, as a parent, anyone who experiences the joy of bringing in a child together with someone you love is just one of the most rewarding experiences, one of the most heartwarming experiences you'll ever have. And so little Nina came into our lives, and it's been 8 months today, actually, as we record this. Sorry, we had to stop for a chore in the house, but we're back. All right. So, as I was saying, it's a very, very heartwarming experience. And so we welcome little Nina on the 31st of August of 2024. Now, both Chandran and I have a lot to say about, you know, the joy that Nina has added into our lives. She is 8 months old as we record this video today. In these 8 months, you know, I think both of us have spent so many moments just enjoying the fact that we have this little baby together in our home. And of course, the elder three siblings as well. They've just completely, I think they've seen Nina and just fallen in love with her. And I can only thank God for that, because in a family that is like ours, a blended home, you know, where the dad is traditionally a step dad and the children are traditionally step siblings, not really terms that I enjoy using, because I think family is family and that's it, period. But I'm so happy to see that all of us, you know, have just come around this little baby together. She's just brought us closer together, closer than ever. So that makes me very, very happy as the wife and as the mother. Now, of course, what I want to talk to you about today is something that a lot of women do not expect, but I think all women should know about. May is Preeclampsia Awareness Month. It makes it all the more important for me to talk about my preeclampsia delivery. So when I was pregnant with Nina, I went in for a checkup at about 35 weeks, and we had a full checkup of baby and me, and everything was A-okay. And then 36 weeks and 2 days, and we're back at the doctor for a checkup, but this time we're told to get admitted straight away. Something changed in those, 10, 12, I think less than 10 days, really, something changed where I suddenly had developed preeclampsia. And what that means is that my blood pressure was just really high out of the blue, up until this time, not only in this pregnancy, but in my life up until this time, I've never had blood pressure problems or, diabetes or any of these issues. So I've been a healthy person. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I'm not overweight, I'm not dealing with anything that's an issue that might lead to a concern during a pregnancy. So, given all of that background and history, I've had 3 normal, natural births in the past with my 3 children, all babies, born naturally, no C-section. So, that's the journey I've had. And for Nina, we were imagining we would do a water birth. We were imagining, Chandran's role and my role and how we're going to be bonding while we deliver this baby. You know how this goes in this day and age. We're YouTubing videos on how to do a water birth, what is the husband's role or the caregiver's role and all of that. And then suddenly at 36 weeks and 2 days on a Thursday morning, we're at the OB-GYNAC and she can see my feet. They're quite swollen up and she can see my blood pressure readings. And her response to me, the first thing she said to me is, Karishma, you're going to have to be admitted and we're going to have to keep you under observation for 24 hours. So Thursday morning, the observation starts, goes into Friday morning, Friday evening, and then finally my blood pressure, I think by Friday evening, it was at about some crazy numbers. I think it was 184 over maybe 90, 95. But the doctor, at that point said, we're just going to have to go ahead and deliver your baby. And so the next morning, Nina was delivered. And the reason this happened this way is because when the blood pressure is at those levels, there is a risk of seizure, there is a risk of stroke, there is a lot of risk of organ damage to the mum. And so it is important to try and, through medication, try and bring that blood pressure down and try and continue the pregnancy. At least in my case, they were trying to continue it to at least 37 weeks. In the past, I've had full-term deliveries. So that was another thing that was very different here. And here, because we were not able to bring the numbers down, the doctor's best advice was to then go ahead and deliver the baby. So we decided to induce labor and bring it on naturally. But at some time in that process, something shifted and changed, and my blood pressure was still spiking, and then we almost could not clearly hear the baby's heartbeat for a split second. And in my mind, I knew clearly that we would do whatever was required to deliver this baby safely. So as soon as the doctors said, it's going to be a C-section, we were just on board with anything. So I think at that point they hit code blue, and my husband and doctors and nurses and everyone were just busy moving the entire bed from there with all the equipment they had attached to me, and took me down into ER. The ER had been prepared, thankfully, because my doctor had anticipated something of this nature. So ER was ready, and I'm saying ER, I mean OR, I mean the operating room was ready. And as I was being wheeled in there, I think my husband was just about getting ready, putting his scrubs on, and then we go into the OR, and at 8 o'clock we're there. At I think 10 past 8, within 10 minutes, Nina was born, and that was it. So it's a very quick delivery, and that is what happens in cases of preeclampsia. When you have a pregnancy-induced hypertension, it is important to make sure the delivery happens, the C-section happens very, very quickly. It's called a crash C-section at that point, and that's what we went through. There was considerable amount of blood that I ended up losing, which means that in my post-operative care, there was some things that I had to go through that I was not expecting. And today, like I said, this episode is, of course, to say that we're so happy to be resuming and to be back with season 3. Also, this episode is to bring awareness to preeclampsia for any pregnant woman out there. There's only about 2 to 8 cases, 2 to 8%, so 2 to 8 cases in 100 of all pregnancies worldwide that may end up like this. But for those women who do end up like this, the truth is that you don't know. You are absolutely unaware that you've got this pregnancy-induced hypertension, and you're going about your day doing everything. So I was doing, housework, and I was doing the chores, doing errands with the children, doing their homework and studies and all of that, not knowing at all at the time that there was something inside of me that needed medical attention immediately. So if you do come across anyone who's pregnant, more than 20 weeks, and has a kind of swelling on their feet that just won't subside at all, no matter what they do, no matter how much they rest, that is one symptom. And of course, if they complain of headaches or pain up and down their shoulder, because that's what I experienced, it would be a good thing to get them to get to the doctor and get their blood pressure checked out just to be safe. Of course, we all know that blood pressure checks are non-invasive. There's no harm done at all. I know that in most cases, just the thought of having your blood pressure checked can raise your blood pressure. So if you check it a few hours apart, you'll get a good idea of your average BP, and then you can take a good call. Or the best thing really is to go see your OB-GYNAC. So in our case, it so happened that we did not know. We didn't know when the onset began. We did not know how it was affecting anything inside my body. We just went for our regular checkup, and they discovered the word preeclampsia. Anyway, once the baby was delivered, because of the amount of blood that was lost and because the blood pressure was still really high, I was immediately moved into recovery room, and from there into the ICU, which meant I did not see Nina. So it was just not the kind of delivery we were expecting at all. We were not allowed visitors. I couldn't see my children, friends and family couldn't visit. So it was a lot, really, just Chandran managing everything at this time on his own. So husbands also need to be sort of given as much support at this time as friends and family can offer. But yeah, as far as my medical condition then was concerned, I should tell you that the blood loss led to me having to receive a pint of blood because I think my hemoglobin count fell quite a bit. So I was quite anemic at one point. And I must tell you that, I've had babies in the past, and I have gotten up after my delivery, straight away hit the shower, gotten back out and just nursed the baby and just carried on like it was a piece of cake, and you compare that to this where I wasn't able to get out of the bed. I was in immense amount of pain, and I had no energy within me whatsoever. I had a continuous headache. I was photosensitive because of my blood pressure. And there were a whole lot of symptoms that were very difficult to fully understand. And of course, your hormones playing their own, role. So it was very, very difficult. And there were too many things that were just not working. They were just out of sync. Too many things putting too much pressure on an already bad situation. So that is the kind of unexpected sort of turn that this delivery took. Finally, I think it was about 5-6 days after having delivered Nina that we came back home, and I think we met the cardiologist the following day. We met the pediatrician the following day, so we had to go back for that. And then the next day, again at home, the cardiologist told me a routine that I needed to follow with the medications. And I was I chose to nurse my baby because I very strongly believe in the good that breastfeeding does. So I did not put her on formula. So I continued to feed her, which means that the medication that I could be given had to be breastfeeding safe. So while we're doing that and we're monitoring my blood pressure, I was told to monitor it at home and continuously communicate it to my cardiologist, who then on that day, the 7th day, has seen my readings and asked me to come back into ER and get admitted again. So it just seemed like it was all spiraling sort of out of control at that point. I think, the medications, your hormones, the strange things that are happening inside of you that are not making sense. That day, I think when we were going to the hospital, my mom was in town by then. So my mom and I took Nina and we just went to the hospital into the ER just as the cardiologist advised us to. And I remember thinking that I wasn't sure if I was going to make it to the end of that day. That was a serious concern in my mind. And it was, primarily, like I said, everything playing together led to that. But one of the things that we discovered by the end of that day was that, In one, I did make it past that day, and thank God for that. And two was that the medications that I was on for the blood pressure were giving me massive side effects. One of those side effects was palpitations. So my heart rate went up to 123, along with my blood pressure staying really high. So we had to adjust medications, and it helped. Everything got better once we fixed that. So a really good OB-GYNAC, and then of course a really good team of doctors, whichever hospital you're consulting in, it really helps. It makes a big difference. A good support system for your husband and you makes a big difference. So yeah, I still had high blood pressure well into 12, 13 weeks after delivery. So it only settled at some time, I think, after 14, 15 weeks. And it has stayed at a healthy number after that. It also is important to know that there is some study that also says that could be a connection to later heart failures and strokes when you have preeclampsia. These are not things to scare anyone. I'm not scared of it anymore. I was terribly afraid when it all happened, but I'm not afraid today because I think it helps me. It helps me do better. It helps me keep my body better. I can't forget now to take care of myself. So that and other than that, I think it's just made it all the more clear to me that if I am going to spend my time on anything, it better be the most important thing in my life and the most important people in my life. Because, yeah, time, I think we're constantly being reminded in life is precious. So, yeah, I do hope that I haven't taken too much of your precious time. And I do hope that you will continue to stay with us on this journey of Hey Karish. We're going to continue to bring you heartfelt stories, some our own, some of those that we are surrounded by. And every time we hear a story, Chandran and I both, my husband and I, we're immediately like, okay, well, bookmarking this one for Hey Karish. So we have plenty of those now from the last 8 months. I'm happy to be back and I'm happy to share this space with you. I'd love to hear from you, any comments you've got, any suggestions you've got. And of course, if you do have any questions about preeclampsia or anything else, do go ahead and post it in the comments below. And we will see you next time on Hey Karish.